There's part of the wicker fence done. It may turn into a living fence because these are willows. So we have reached a height with my willows that it is time to prune them a little bit and get them fed to some animals. So I'm going to show you how I do that today. You can see the level I cut it to. Once you cut it, it kind of kills that willow and it has to come up from the root. But you can see where I do it too. The sheep are a little bit hungry this morning, so I'm going to harvest these for the sheep and then take them up. I'm not going to feed the cherries because those have, I believe it's arsenic, but I could be wrong. They won't like the lovage because the lovage tastes like celery and it's super intense. They will want the willows. They won't want the motherwort because it's a little bit prickly and it's an herb. Generally, they don't like a large amount of herbs. So we're just going to take all this down to the deadwood part of the fence and create more deadwood. You can see it comes down very, very quickly once you get started. I'm only going to cut a little bit more. I'm going to cut just a little bit more so that you can see what an actual section should look like. Alright, you can see the difference in height between what I haven't cut and what I have cut, and what I still have that needs to be cut. A lot of people would call this like a deadwood type of a fence. I have deadwood, it's not all living wood. And I stick branches in the ground that then turn into trees, and then these guys self-seed. So it pretty much just kind of never gets taller, but it does get thicker. I think it's already cast all of its seed. But I'll show you. This is where it's self-seeded. The nice thing about these guys is if you get them early enough, you can just pull them up by the roots, but you have to get them early enough to pull them up by the roots. I'll just take this to the sheep really quick. I may have to turn this off because it's a bit... It's a little bit of an armful, but I'll try to keep it on. What you doing, chicka baby? I'm not trying to chase ya. This one here, this one is growing too far out into the path, so I have to come and cut that. As sad as it is, because it's super healthy, it's too far out into the path. And these are my lettuce beds going to seed. I'm going to save some seed from those. And my ever resilient Swiss chard. There's the hollyhocks. We let the sheep out to graze quite a bit, and they tried to kill my hollyhocks. All right, guys, I'm going to put this on the inside so you stop rubbing all your wool off.
So, this is the amazing shrub woman. What we would call a headdress, except it's on a backpack.
The problem is when the wind comes up, it works as a mast, and I start to blow away a little bit. But I found these on my neighbor's property. They were already cut. I asked her if I could have them, and it's a lot faster than going out in the ditch and cutting them myself. So the willow should work good for the cross bracing and the living fence. And I just want to show you that, again, this is a laundry bag, and it has straps like a college kid laundry bag. So far it works really good. So
And right now she's standing just over 12 feet tall.
So I take this is my favorite tool for mulch because the tines are far enough apart that the straw doesn't get stuck in them. So I use this tool to pull the mulch away, and then I do a little bit of digging with the shovel, and then I do the rest of the digging because I want it to be a hole that is small in diameter, so that the compaction of the dirt itself will hold the stake in. And then I use, can you see it? My little trowel. And so I use my little trowel to dig the rest of the way. And then I use this stick to tamp the earth once I have the stake in. And then I recover it with mulch because I don't want to be losing moisture out of that hole, even though it's small. If you have exposed dirt, even just around the stake, it will still give you moisture loss. Okay, this is where I like to gather my starts for just putting sticks in the ground that will grow. And let's see, I believe that is not a cottonwood. I think that one's the cottonwood. I think these others might be black willow. But I've had good luck with willow and with cottonwood. You just take new growth, so the bark is quite green and smooth, and you just take a little screwdriver and stick it in the ground and wiggle it around until you have a space big enough, and then you just force the branch down into it and it will grow you a tree. It does need to be watered, but they're really resilient. And then these are regular willows that don't turn into trees. They're just willows. They don't get obviously they don't get the girth that a real tree will. They'll stay small like this. But if you're making a living fence, they might be a nice addition. Give you a little bit of diversity. But if you have irrigation in your area during the empty months of the year, this is a really great place to go and get plants, because it's kind of public domain because it's a waterway, and as long as you stay in the canal and you're not up on somebody's property, you should be okay. Again, I have a laundry bag on my back, and as I cut things, I will just reach over my head and put it in the bag, and I just use pruners, little pruners. So these are riverbank willows. They're actually on our canal. And this is what I'm turning them into. I have just a little bit of water in the bottom, kind of like with cutting flowers. Just using pruning shears. And I got some cottonwood and some black willow too. This is what it looks like. I've got two in the ground. A big one and a little one. And then 2 inches and a big one and a little one. I'm using the hammer and a really big long screwdriver. There's all my little pieces. Pull it out. Then what I do is I take a really skinny one and put it in the hole. Okay. Then I take a big one and put it in the hole. Okay. Now the deeper you get it, the better water you're going to be able to have for him. The more shallow they are, the more vulnerable they are. So now I take my hammer, tap it in. If I tried to push the little one in after I get the big one in, it won't go in all the way. Hey guys, I'm redoing my living fence, not redoing it, but boosting it a little bit. So what I do is I have a long screwdriver in the ground to make the hole like that. And where did I put it? I have just a little slip. It doesn't need to be rooted. The only important thing is make sure you have water in that spot. So hopefully you can see that. And so I'm gonna take out my screwdriver, put the little thing in, And voila. I'm a little bit late doing it this year. It's better to do it in the spring, just as everything is still really wet. But there it is. There's the living fence, and I use it for shade for the ducks. I use it as a windbreak for the garden, and I use it to build up organic matter in the soil. As the leaves drop, it mulches everything. So you guys can see that it's starting to get quite a bit taller than me, and I don't want that. I don't want these bushes to get so comfortable here that they're sending up lots of sprouts. I want to hold them back, because if I can hold back their growth, it will hold back the depth and breadth that those roots go to, and willow roots can damage things. So I'm going to clip these at the level I originally wanted them to be, and we'll go from there.
You want some help?
Not at the moment.
What?
Not at the moment.
But don't you have a bigger pair of pliers?
I don't.
Can we take turns on those pliers?
Huh?
Can we take turns on the pliers that you do have?
Not if I want to get done sometime today. This one came in a little bit more sparsely, so I'm not going to prune it as much, and I'm just going to try and open things up to the side a little bit. So instead of cutting these low ones, I'm going to just move them into the fence. Like that. Because I want those to keep growing. And these, they will of course die because they'll dry out, but they add to the bulk of the fence.
Snowballs up next. The food.
Can you put some more beans on it?
Yeah.
And put some cheese into it.
Again, where the cheese melts.
No, just leave it in there for me. I'll be in a minute.
And I'm in the 30s.
Yeah.
In my school, in my math.
I'm not going to feed the cherries because those have, I believe it's arsenic, but I could be wrong. They won't like the lovage because the lovage tastes like celery and it's super intense. They will want the willows. They won't want the motherwort because it's a little bit prickly and it's an herb. Generally, they don't like a large amount of herbs. So we're just going to take all this down to the deadwood part of the fence and create more deadwood.